meeting. Item 1, welcome everybody to the Scrutiny Sustainable Committee today, Tuesday the 24th of February. This recording will be broadcast on the authority's website and may be used for training purposes by the Democratic Service Department. All attendees will be in view of the camera, and by attending you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined above. I don't want any apologies for absence.
Sarah King and Craig Flynn.
Sarah King and Craig Flynn, okay. Any other apologies? No. Item 2, declarations of interest. And you will note there, members are reminded they must identify the item number and subject matter that their interest relates to and signify the nature of the personal interest. And B, where members withdraw from a meeting as a consequence of the disclosure of a prejudicial interest, they must notify the chair when they leave. Nobody's indicated they've got an item of interest. So we go on to item 3, and that's the minutes of the meeting on Tuesday, 20th of January 2026. And to approve entered into the record the draft minutes of the previous meeting. Of the meetings there, but to pages 5, 6, 7, and 8. If you're happy to approve the minutes.
You'll move the minutes, Chair, if everybody's happy.
Been moved by Councillor Smith. Is there a seconder to that, please?
Yeah, second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. All those in favour and happy that the minutes are correct record, please show. Thank you very much. We now go to the next item on the agenda, which is item 4, and that's the action logs. To receive updates on action from previous meetings. That's pages 9 to 16. Anything there to update us, Neil?
Only comment to make is since the report pack was published, some health data was circulated in response to the corporate self-assessment report in November.
Yeah.
So those actions will are now closed off. Yeah, I don't know if it's any feedback or comment on that health data that was circulated. I know it was quite substantial information.
Yeah, being sent out. I know it's a while ago. I'll have a look at it again. I have read it, just in case I didn't, and nothing sort of hit me. But I'll have a look at it again, and if there is anything, I'll send you an email. But there's nothing else on the action.
Right, no, anything else outstanding is belongs to the actions then.
Okay, nothing else on the. Nobody wants to raise anything on the action logs. Right. The next item on the agenda is item 5. That's the draft Healthy Organisation Strategy 2026 to 2029. And that's to consider the attached report. It's pages 17 to 30. Councillor Salmon, you?
Yeah, I'll take that, Chair.
Okay,
I'll just give a brief introduction. This report presents the draft of the Local Authority's Healthy Organisation Strategy 2026 to 2029, so that members of this committee can give feedback and make suggestions before it goes to Cabinet and full Council. The draft report, which can be found in Appendix 1, lists 6 key themes on how the strategy will be implemented over the next 3 years and how the local authority intends to move forward positively, and it also lists the key challenges we face. While the report is generally positive, I think it's still recognised that there is work to do, with 86% of staff responding that although they felt proud to work for the council, the percentage of positive responses was at 55%, meaning that almost half haven't been so positive. I'm not sure if it was sent separately, Chair, or if I just couldn't see it, but I think it would be helpful for members of this committee to see the results of the culture survey, which is mentioned within the report. And although the surveys from 2022 and 2024 can be found on the internet, I'm not sure everyone has sight of the most recent one. And that's it, thank you, Chair, and I put it back to you, Tom.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Salmon. I certainly haven't seen the Cultures survey. So, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, on the comment, Councillor Salmon, can we have a copy of that?
Yeah, I think Hannah Brown is here, and I'm sure Hannah will be able to.
I can't remember seeing
No,
it,
I
so
haven't seen it.
you know, things are going to come back to us before we can discuss it.
Yeah, Hannah?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, so the culture survey was done a while ago, and we are due to do another one. So I can't remember off the top of my head if that was shared. Beth is on the line. I think when we brought the Healthy Organisation to you last time, so the first time, then there may have been more details in there around that culture survey, but Beth can correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, we're happy to share the the sort of highlights of what that survey is. What we wanted to do, if I could just sort of position the Healthy Organisation, we had the strategy in 2024, and we only put the strategy for 2 years because it was the first time that we'd had a Healthy Organisation strategy. And what we wanted to do was just, strategies are normally sort of longer term than that. So what I would describe to you today is that this is sort of a review of the current strategy, sort of a version 2. So obviously some of that information, like the culture survey, like the workforce data that's in there, will get updated, regularly as we move forward. But yeah, happy to share with you, some of the other areas of that culture survey. What we wanted to do for the Healthy Organisation strategy was just highlight that. What our staff, had indicated in terms of what they feel it's like to work at Merthyr. One of the things that I would say is obviously not all staff completed the culture survey, so it is only a snapshot of a certain number of staff, and that might not always be a true reflection of what all staff think.
Thank you.
And as I said, I don't remember seeing the one who said, is it 2024 was the last one? I don't really
Yes.
recall seeing it. Neither does Councillor Smith. And if perhaps that could be sent to us. When is the next one due? You said the next one is due fairly shortly?
This year, yeah. So we will be looking at doing another survey this year.
Well, when that's completed, perhaps that could be sent to us as well later on this year?
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay. Councillor Richards?
Thank you, Chair. It's as a follow-up from that. Is it possible, when you said it's a snapshot, Hannah, what percentage was responding, would you say, of the workforce?
Sorry, can I just bring Beth in? Beth, I don't know if you've got that information in front of you. Do you remember how many? I think it was around about 300 staff. Am I right, Beth?
I think we had a little bit more. It was around 400 staff, which obviously due to our head count is quite low. So it's, like Hannah's mentioned, it's not a full picture of how everybody feels. So when we're talking about percentages, that percentage is just around 384 staff in terms of responses.
Yeah.
Right.
Chair, can I have a follow-up on that, please?
Yeah.
And is it possible perhaps to break down directorates for us in the future as well? To see if there are specific areas then are responding differently to other areas?
So the last few times that we've done the culture survey, we haven't asked staff to indicate what areas they work in, and that's been for a few reasons. One is because we called it a culture survey, so we wanted to establish what the culture was across the authority rather than looking at single cultures within different areas. Now, I think that there's pros and cons to that. So we're not able to break down the areas on the previous surveys that we've done. But I think it is something that we do need to consider moving forward, because when you do look at some of the results, it is very difficult to know, is this sort of a pocket, of the council, or is this a wide sort of positive or negative, across the culture. So the positioning when we did it, sort of, we've done it for the last 4 years, has very much been because we wanted to establish what was the culture like here at Merthyr across the board. But I do get that sometimes it would be more useful to understand is that it just in certain areas.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, to add to Councillor Richards, I think that would be very helpful if you, at the next survey, were able to departmentalize right across the authority, because then I think you'd have a much fairer reflection. If there are any issues which are situated in more than one department, you'll be able to indicate it from that. You said, Beth, it's 384. Out of how many? Are we talking about the core staff, or is it the core staff and the staff in education establishments?
Talking about the corporate staff. So mine, we're not including school staff in our culture survey.
Right. And what is the current figure, approximately? 384 out of how many? Over 1,000?
Yes. So it's around 1,400 corporate staff, but we've got that broken down into corporate users versus frontline staff. So corporate users and frontline staff both have access to the culture survey, just in different mechanisms.
Okay. So 384 to 400 is really typically not a fair reflection of 1,400 staff. So I don't know what more you can do to encourage people, because it is important that they respond to the survey. So the more that they have completed the survey, I mean, I haven't seen the survey myself, so I don't know how many questions you've got. Is it quite reasonable? Sometimes when you see a survey and somebody say, well, it'll only take 5 minutes, and you open it and you're there half the day. So
yeah, can I come in there, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, it is quite a lengthy survey, and that is something that we will consider the next time that we do it. The other area, I suppose, to consider is that because it is anonymous and we only had 384 returned, it is a risk if we start asking, I think, for areas that you work, because some of the feedback that we have had, because what we did last time to try and get the numbers up is that we went out to try and visit staff, certainly those frontline staff, to get them to complete it. We can't force people to complete it, and some people just point blank refused and said, no, I don't want to take part. So that's the only sort of caveat that I would say. There's pros and cons to both. If we start to sort of ask what areas you work in or what teams you work in, will that put staff off because maybe they won't want to be honest in their feedback because they may feel that we could identify who they are? And I'm not saying that we can. It's just something for us to consider, which is one of our considerations previously, to keep it anonymous, so that people are not identified. But again, we're still not seeing those numbers.
Okay, thanks. Gary, you want to come in?
Yeah, a bit confused. I've jumped ahead a bit here to page 26 of the report. That refers to the culture survey, the paragraph, and it says there 86.39% of our staff responded to a question. Now, if it's only 400, is it 86% of that 400? Or is it 80% of the total number of the workforce, where they give a positive response? I was going to ask a question later on when we come to that part. So it's a bit confused there. It refers to culture survey, and it does say quite clearly 86 39% of our staff responded to the question that they felt proud to work for the council, with 55 positive responses. My question to that would be, does that mean there'll be 45% negative responses? If that's the case, that'd be quite high. But I jumped the gun a bit there, Chair, but I'm a bit confused with the figures now. I'm sorry you can't see me. I tried the link, but I can't.
That's okay. Yeah, so it is of the people that responded to the survey. I'm right, Beth? Yeah, the 86%. Yeah, and the 55. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it now. The 55% were so on the survey. You can say whether you agree or you disagree or you are neutral. So we've taken that 55% as those that have agreed or strongly agreed to some of those positive statements. So it might not necessarily mean that 45% were negative. There were some responses that they didn't agree or disagree. They could choose a sort of middle ground. But we can, when we share the survey, we can obviously give you that those percentages in more detail.
Yeah, the only back on that is that if you're going to make a statement of that kind, I would have thought you'd put the negative responses as well, so have a better feel for what's happening within the workforce.
Yeah,
so
we can
to say 55% inclusive, that's fine. But
yeah.
you could have added to the sentence there. 20% said they weren't happy, or whatever that figure would be.
Yeah,
but 86% of the people who responded. Is that saying? But it doesn't say that. He said 86. It says 86% of our staff responded to the question.
Okay, we can change that. I mean that's the purpose of today, isn't it? For you to give us some of that feedback, so we can certainly change that sentence so it's more clear that it was of those that responded to the survey, and we can certainly put a bit more detail around the perhaps the positive comments and the not so positive comments.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sorry about that. I jumped ahead then. Sorry.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes, Councillor Smith.
on that comment, can we have a copy of the survey when we have the report next for this? Because I'd like to know what questions have been asked. So it might be a different question that I'm thinking of. So let's have a copy, know what we're talking about as well.
Yeah. I think they can do that, Anna. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Right, we're going back to the draft healthy organisation strategy. On questions now. So I'll start in the overarching report, and I'll tell you the page number so we know where we are. So page 17. Has anybody got any questions on page 17? No. Page 18. I've got a question there on page 18 and 4.4. You refer to the fact that some highlighted successes of the previous healthy organisation strategy are, and you list a number of them. Perhaps could you tell me there? Do you have regular meetings with the recognised trade union representatives?
Yes, Chair. So we have a monthly meeting that is always in the diary with the trade unions. Some services will have their own meetings with the trade unions, and those meetings will be scaled up if we need additional meetings for different programmes that we're working on.
So you do have feedback from trade union representatives?
Yes.
Right. I couldn't see any examples in here of any feedback with 1,400 members of staff. There would be quite a few of those who are members of trade unions. And, there are local representatives here, together with, I'm sure you meet with on occasions with full-time officers. So I would like to see if there's any regular feedback we have these reports, so that we got the whole picture.
Okay, Chair. So is your suggestion that we should include in the strategy sort of feedback of how what the trade unions feel about the healthy organisation strategy?
Yes.
Or yeah,
Yes.
yeah, okay,
Yes.
yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Any other questions on page 18? No.
Sorry, John, Gary's got his.
Oh, Gary. Sorry. Yes. I had my head up.
No,
Yes, Gary.
Page 19, I am, Chair.
Go on, page 19. Yes, go on.
Chair, there's several, following on from the request for the culture survey, the copy of it, there's several mentions within the report of the action plans that sit behind the strategy. Question I put to the committee is that would it be possible to have copies of those plans to see what's going to be done by when? And the reason I'm asking that is that we'll have a better idea when you come to look at your future work programme where to fit this particular strategy in to review it, to have a look at it and question it. But at the moment, we don't know exactly what's going to be done by when, by whom, so we can follow that on. Now, I'd have thought that there's nothing wrong with that request to have those documents, because I'd consider them to be background paper, which the committee should have access to if they so wish. So my question is, would it be possible for the committee to have copies of the action plans?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. So we've just so that everybody's aware, on a yearly basis, we report to Council on the achievement against the Healthy Organisation 6 themes. So we just in January sent the last year's update. So I'd be happy to share that with the committee as well. And we do have an action plan for each year. We tend to treat it, Gary, a little bit like our sort of forward work plan for the year. So we've got our strategy, and then as a team we will sit down and say, right, against these themes, what are going to be the actions that we can complete, realistically each year. So I'm happy to share those with you as well.
Thank you.
Happy with that, Gary?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Right, any other questions on page 19? I've got two. Under the heading, paragraph 5, where we are now, 5.1, the last few words of that paragraph reads, feedback has been gathered from a variety of sources. Unless I've particularly missed it, and I may have, could you give us any examples of where you have feedback to ensure the supports the delivery of critical services within the council?
Yeah, I can answer that. And Beth, I don't know if you want to come in as well. So in preparation of the review of this, we've consulted with a number of sort of stakeholders in terms of how they feel the Healthy Organisation has supported them. Obviously, the trade unions being one. We have taken this to corporate management team and senior leadership team. We run a monthly managers meeting as well, where we've shared, update and progress with them, so that we are trying to obtain, that feedback from them. Beth, was there anything else that we've done in relation to the review?
We've also sent out a survey to our line management population to gather feedback for them to feed into what actions, activities and initiatives that they feel needs to sit within those action plans, and we've been able to build those into our forward work plan.
Thank you for that answer, Beth. I will ask the question on, could you refer to that in 5.2? the fact that the culture survey consults the CMT, SLT, various surveys and monthly online meetings with our management population. I presume we're talking about all management. How far down do you go with that? Down to what level do you classify as your management population?
Currently, sorry,
What?
Chair. Currently, we have around 160 managers. That includes 30 members of CMT and SLT. So we send out any surveys to all of those line manager population. So we've got team leaders, supervisors, middle management, as well as senior leadership. So it reaches all of our line management population.
Right.
Can I just come in there, Chair, as well? Sorry. And just to say that, this is an organisational strategy. So what we try to do as well is put the emphasis on the departments and CMT and SLT and those managers as some, as a population to feed that throughout their teams as well, so that they are enabling us to get as much feedback as we possibly can to shape, the strategy moving forward.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. No other question on page 19? Page 20? No? Right, we go on to the actual strategy 2026, 2029. Again, I go page by page. Page 22. Anyone? No? 23, page 23.
I got a question, Chair.
Yeah, I got a correction first before I begin to Councillor Smith. In the introduction, we've got there, in the second line, you say we recognise our employees play an essential part in delivering services to the residents and communities of the local borough. Could you change that to the residents' communities of the county borough? Okay, happy with that? Right.
Yep, no worries. Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm looking halfway down. We go page 23. We got the skills and development culture, and then you got another 3 on top of that. And I can't read it. It's so dark and black. I know my eyes are bad, but it's unbelievable, because we're there to read these things, to ask questions, and I don't know what it's saying something, because it's in a mess. And not only that, a couple of pages there, I'm going to say, what? The printing's bad. Can we sort the printing out? I know it's going to sort this department, but you've got to work out with the printing department to have it all sorted out, because we can't understand it.
Yeah, I'm bringing you, just to explain, Anna, could Councillor Smith give an example on page 23. If you have a paper copy, I mean, if you see it on screen, it's all lovely and you see the colours there. The print comes out, it's a different kettle of fish. So when you've got writing with a black background, it becomes a bit more difficult to read. But I think Neil's got a point on that.
Yeah, just from my side, Councillor Smith, I will pick that up with my line managers as well, because the printing of the reports obviously comes under yourselves as well, so that's something I will liaise with my line manager on as well.
I'm going to say it's not only this report, it's most of the reports we're getting on paper.
Yeah.
And some are ridiculous, it's too dark, we can't see it, so no. So I'm glad Neil brought it up and speak to man, and I will take it forward.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I suppose if you're printing it out in black and white, the colours that are on the screen don't look the same on the page. So, yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Okay. There's nothing on there, page 23, and nothing else. We're on to page 24. Anybody got any questions on page 24? No? Right, we're on to page 25. something that's close to my heart. If you look at the last paragraph under the heading, where are we now? The last word there, talking about services provided to the residents of Merthyr. Can we add Tydfil in there, please? Thank you. Right, Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Under workforce planning, the second paragraph. And I agree with the statement, the challenge of an ageing workforce is particularly pressing for Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council. But unfortunately, if I put my old hat on, we've had this problem for a number of years. And I know it's going to say that we're going to put plans in place to implement succession planning and targeted development opportunities. But this has been existing for some time now. I'd like the officer to have to be, a full response now to say what's been done to date, what is our plan for the future, and is there an action plan behind this to try to achieve what we want to achieve? Because most of the older staff, if you look at the figures within the report, are slowly disappearing, and there's a younger generation in there. But it's particularly difficult for this organisation over the years, and the past few years, a lot of the ageing workers have gone. So how have we succeeded in what we've done, and how are we planning to succeed for the future? If that makes sense, Chair.
Yes. Anna?
Sorry, Gary, did you say you wanted us to answer that now, or do you want us to give you an update on that outside of this?
But I mean, if you can explain now, no problem, because it may be a bit long response. But I would have thought there's plans in place for succession planning for some time now, not just this draft strategy, but the last 2 years as well. So what have we achieved over the last couple of years in implementing succession planning and targeted development opportunities, whatever that means? Have we been successful? Yeah. What have we done? And what is the plan for the coming 3 years under this plan?
Yeah,
As I say, you don't have to give the answer fully now, but if you can, great.
Yeah, we'll give you a high level, but if you want anything extra, we could, could provide you with an update. But Beth, do you want to come in and talk about your work with workforce planning and how far we've moved forward recently?
Yes, thank you for the question, Gary. So over the last 8 months, we've implemented regular 8 weekly workforce planning meetings with heads of services and key service managers. As part of those discussions, we've also implemented a pilot for data dashboards. And these data dashboards include key workforce data. Within those dashboards, there are highlight snapshots around age, part-time contracts, full-time contracts, age, grades, salaries. It's sort of a makeup of the service and departments. So within those workforce planning meetings that we meet with heads of services, a representation from organisational development, employee relations and recruitment attend. And throughout those meetings, we discuss any recruitment challenges, whether they are hard to recruit job roles, and we sort of get underneath why that might be. That could be whether they are salary constraints. It could be the wrong time of the year that we are recruiting. It could be that we need to relook at job descriptions. So we've really got underneath what some of those challenges are in terms of some of the hard to recruit areas. Alongside the workforce planning meetings, we also discuss within there succession planning. This can include if staff are planning to retire and what their plans are in terms of trying to pass their skills and expertise on to other members of the team, or whether they want to recruit and replace roles. And we have a full length conversation around what that looks like. Alongside workforce planning, we've also, over the last couple of years, introduced our apprenticeship scheme, and where we've been able to identify where key areas of staff may leave, where those key spots, so specific points of dependencies, and try to put in place opportunities for staff to enter into the organisation to learn and earn at the same time. So they're able to come in, they're able to gain a qualification and also learn from existing officers that may already be in place. And we have some really, really good examples of where that's happened in some of our service areas. It specifically worked really, really well in neighbourhood services, where we've been able to see a clear succession plan for some of those really difficult jobs that we're finding really hard to recruit for, and that's just one example. But in terms of workforce planning in general, obviously we take that point that it is a challenge as a local authority we will always face, and there's pockets of work that is being done, but I suppose organisationally it's a challenge that we need to continue to strengthen our work against. Sorry, Han, is there anything else you wanted to add on that?
No, I think that summarises. We have come a long way, certainly in the last 12 months, with getting better at accessing data for managers so that they know their staff profiles. They know what, rather than just looking at the issues that are they're facing. We're trying to get them to forward plan a lot more. And I think, having these regular meetings, it allows us to be able to scope out with managers as part of their plans, what they can do to overcome some of these challenges. Now, overcoming some of these challenges have constraints. We don't have, surplus budget where we can put lots of new roles in to replace people that might want to retire. But what we are doing is really trying to work with that manager. And sometimes we have had business cases, come forward where the only option is that we do have to replace roles, or we've offered secondments internally for people to come across and learn some new skills, because we know eventually somebody might be, retiring. So, I think we've done a lot in the last 12 months to give managers access to that, and for my teams, surely, to support managers to be thinking more long term. We certainly haven't, cracked it, Gary. And as Beth said, I think, we're always going to have these challenges. But I certainly feel that we know ourselves a lot better as an authority, and managers are more aware of, rather than just dealing with a recruitment issue, as an example, when somebody hands their notice in or leaves, they're trying to forward plan a lot better. And I really do feel my team have been able to support them with that over the last 12 months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. That was very helpful. It's good to see such work being done. Reference to spots, nightmare of ours back in the day, as always. Have all the potential spots now been identified within the authority? Not asking any explanation, just have they been identified? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, we do know our spots, and I think that's as part of the work that Beth does is working with those managers to upskill other people so that they don't remain spods, and that if they do have a unique sort of skill set that nobody else has, we've got to break that down, and that is part of that workforce meeting, is that we're identifying with managers, well, what are you going to do to share that knowledge, skill, or upskill other people? Is there qualifications? Is there other things that other staff need in order to ensure we don't have, spods? We're always going to have those staff that have been here a long time, who are highly skilled, have lots of experience, and would be devastating if they left. But we have had examples where this has happened, and we have survived because we have been able to put things in place. So we've just got to keep doing that with managers.
Thank you, Chair. Very helpful. Thank you.
Just to explain to the public, because they might be confused by spots, I think all councillors are aware of what it is, but I refer to them as single point of contact. It means there's only one officer who's been doing that job, and it's an issue which we have to try and overcome and deal with. Right. Anything else on page 25? If not, you're on page 26. Anything there at all? No. And then we come to page 27. The point that's been raised by Councillor Smith and myself about this business of black and white here, particularly the example you've got there, I think if you're able to sort it out, it'd be much easier for people to read. And particularly the age profile there, I think that could be clarified a lot more than it is there at the moment. And talking about age profile, I was going to ask you previously, but I presume that anyone who's approaching retirement, and they can approach retirement, I presume, I don't know what the start-off age is nowadays, but we send them on a pre-retirement course for anybody who's coming up to retirement. Is that carried out across the authority?
Not that I'm aware of, Chair. Not a course. Obviously, we would give advice and guidance to anybody who's approaching that. If they wanted support with their pensions, we would refer them to RCT. But I'm not aware of a course. Sorry.
No, so we don't put them in. So when we know that somebody is due to retire, because there are various organisations that we cannot do it in-house that cater for this sort of thing for people who are approaching retirement. Because for a lot of people, it's a different world out there when retirement hits you. And other organisations do offer them to go on pre-retirement. It might be just for a few hours somewhere where there's particular members of staff in those organisations that can help them in various ways, but we don't do it.
Not as a course, no.
Okay, Gary? Gary, are you with us?
Sorry, Chair, my microphone is off. Sorry, Chair.
Okay.
Just with regards to the age profile, again, which is helpful information, I would assume there's a lot of information behind this, and I'm just wondering, is there breakdowns behind the scenes between administrative and manual workers? Because the challenges are totally different for each type of work environment. So if you've got somebody manual having difficulty working, coming to the retirement age, do you understand how many are in the system? Potentially. So I would have found it helpful, Chair, a bit of a breakdown there between whatever the categories are nowadays with regards to organisations, administrative and manual workers, and any others potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Beth mentioned the workforce data. So behind that, heads of service and directors would have access to their own areas, and we would be able to break that down. I think for a strategy, personally, I think we need to keep it at, the overall level, but there is data that sits behind that. So they would have access to that information, when we have those meetings. And I do agree, Gary, that, the workforce meetings, and when you look at the requirements, are very different between, sort of frontline staff and, our office corporate staff. I do agree with that.
Okay, Chair, just take it there is information behind the scenes. That's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Still on page 27, on the bottom of that page, there's a heading Welsh speaking skills, and there's various figures there. All those figures broken down, that amounts to hopefully somewhere about 1,400. Is that correct? That would be 1,400 right across the core staff of the authority.
Yes, Chair. They're thereabouts. So this information is pulled from our main HR and payroll system. So whatever information we have within there, which we gather from a recruitment perspective, as well as when staff are already in post, if they take up Welsh speaking courses, they're able to add that information on, so we're able to report on it.
Right. So my question then is, there are 796 who got no skills in Welsh speaking. But the next figure is there are 665 who've got general conversation skills. I'm a little bit surprised at that figure, to be honest with you. The last sentence, covering Merthyr Tydfil, asked the question, do you speak Welsh, etc. And I think the figure was in the region of about 11% for Merthyr Tydfil. So that figure of 665 means that we've got a much higher ratio of employees who've got general conversation skills.
Yes, that's what the data is telling us from our systems. We are currently in the process of reviewing our Welsh language level skills to ensure that when we're collating that data from a recruitment perspective, it's following the Welsh language framework, so that there's levels associated with that and what those levels individually mean. So for example, no skills would be a 0, whereas general conversation could potentially be level 1, but it's broken down into different categories. So that is something that we are working with the Welsh language team on.
Right. But 665 would encompass all those levels, because if somebody's, and I know you're offering courses here for Welsh speaking, but so if somebody's been to a course of Welsh speaking here, they will answer, well, yes, I've got general conversation skills as a result of going to one course. That's what that would be.
It could be. I think that there's an education piece for staff to understand those levels. Obviously, as part of recruitment, we undertake a 10-hour Welsh, what is classed as a basic course, before they enter into the organisation. So I think it's just an education piece for staff to understand what that level relates to, so that when that data is collated, they're ensuring that they're in the right category, so that when we're pulling reports, it is very reflective of where their Welsh language skills are at.
Okay. Any other questions on that page 27? No. On to page 28 now. Anybody got any questions there?
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor.
On page 28, where we want to be, you look down the line and it also says, it's a Better Tomorrow board, and it was run by Councillor Salmon, am I right? Or am I wrong? You're the cabinet member on this board? Yeah. Could I tell who's on the group as well? Because we've got so many groups going in Merthyr, town centre, funding coming in, we don't know where we are half the time. So somebody clarified who's on that group, please?
Yep, certainly, Councillor Smith. So the Better Tomorrow board is the board for our transformation plan.
Right.
So if you remember, last year we brought to council the transformation plan. So as part of that governance, we've set up a board which is cabinet led by Councillor Declan Salmon as the cabinet member for governance and transformation, and also Councillor Anna Williams-Price, who's the cabinet member for finance. So the officers involved in that would be the chief exec, Sarah King as Director of Governance and Resources, and Craig Flynn as Director of Finance, myself as Head of People Services and Transformation, and then there will be various officers that are leading some of the themes and are the sort of responsible person for those themes. So as part of that board, It also covers our financial savings programme and our annual delivery plan, which Andrew Mogford leads for that as well. So there's 3 elements to that board where we look at our transformation plan, our financial savings and the annual delivery plan for our service improvements.
Thank you much, but we got all senior officers on that board and nobody from the public, nothing like that.
No,
it's your point.
Yeah, it's an internal board for transformation. And sorry, I did miss off the trade unions sit on that board as well. But yeah, it's an internal board for monitoring and the governance around transformation, finance and service improvements.
And what they discussed then is kept in-house? So the minutes are not spread about or given?
No, the minutes are just for that particular board, yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for the list, Anna. But if we could, perhaps, there's some members of the committee not present this afternoon, if we could all be sent the list of the core members of that committee would be helpful, and how often you meet.
Okay, so yeah, it's the board meets quarterly at the moment, and then there's monthly steering groups, which are the officers who are leading those themes will meet for updates on progression.
We can feed into the main body.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll certainly send some information on that board for you.
Right. Okay. Nothing else?
Yeah, Chair, just follow on a question there then that Bill has raised. I would assume then that this board has a terms of reference. So if you're going to have an email sent to you with regards to the people on the board, it would be helpful to have the terms of reference as well to understand exactly what they are charged with looking at.
Yeah, I just wrote that down, Gary, so I'll send that, so I'll give you the full information about what the board does.
Good, better understand it then, Chair. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, good point, Gary. Thanks. There's nothing else on page 28. We come to page 29, which in paper form, I had quite a bit of a struggle and still are in reading it because it's the printing is extremely small and it's faded. But there's one point there which is headed, our workplace enhances the well-being, health and happiness of our staff. Now, I'm looking in at the word health because every employee has a responsibility to look after their own health. But as an authority, I know that we have on various times, for example, carry out blood pressure tests, and there have been others. I think that is something that could be included in this strategy because, I mean, in this day and age, people attend the GP a lot of the time, not when there's a spark there, but when the fire is raging. And I think that as the largest employer in Merthyr Tydfil, that we have a responsibility to see what we can do to ensure if somebody's got something that they don't know they've got health-wise, that on occasions it may well be picked up within the organisation. For example, I worked separately many years ago for a trade union who regularly came in, there was nurses, etc., come in and took various tests. And from that, I know there were individual members of staff who didn't realise that they were suffering from something. And that was picked up and that was forwarded on and they went off into the health service to get it dealt with. So is it possible within this authority to expand what we're doing in that case?
think in terms of checking staff's things like blood pressure, we have done that. So as part of that workplace enhancing wellbeing and health, we're saying there that employees are supported through the occupational health unit. So if somebody has particular concerns, even if they're still in work, then a referral can be made to Occ Health, where the Occ Health advisor will support them with what condition that they may have. But we've also done sort of wellbeing days where staff have been invited in to talk to Occ Health, and they will do blood pressure tests and things like that. So we have offered that to staff. And there are other things, that we've looked at. I suppose, we do only have one occupational health advisor, and, depending on what you would expect from that, we may be limited in terms of, we don't, for example, other local authorities will have doctors and nurses as part of their Occ Health unit. We don't have that, so we would have to refer out then for extra support.
Yeah. I mean, for example, in this day and age, there's at least over 1 million people walking around who don't know they've got diabetes. So there is, that's an example, but is something that if we had somebody in and was offered to our employees, I wouldn't mind betting you that there would be employees who had absolutely no idea and work day in, day out, suffering from diabetes. So it's things like that I would have thought that we could look at towards the future and the health well-being of and happiness of all our staff. Is that something that can be looked at? Beth, you indicated you wanted to.
Yes, thank you, Chair. If I can just come in here. Something that we have looked to explore over the last 12 months is working in collaboration with other partnerships. And one example of where we've worked with that is a service provider called In-Work Services, which is a Welsh Government funded programme where staff have access to rapid healthcare. Because I echo the same, concerns that you have. GP waiting lists are really long, and it's very difficult. So it's something that we've explored already and shared out to staff. But certainly, I'm sure there is other organisations we can look at to collaborate with. It just will be something that we've got to embed in our action plan to take forward and engage with our staff to ask them perhaps what they would like to see as well in terms of well-being and raising awareness.
That would be great. I think that if you pursue that, and particularly if you're asking them,
Can I just come in there, Chair, as well? Another thing that we haven't done this yet, but we have explored is sort of that like private healthcare cover, so that it would be a sort of benefit for staff. Going on the back of what Beth just said, which prompted me to remember that, was about sort of waiting times. That it would be great if we could offer something like that, where staff might have to pay into it, but it would be discounted through an employer benefit rather than going directly for private healthcare cover. So again, that is something that we can try and build into our action plan.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's fine. Right. Any other questions on anything that anybody's got? No? If not, we'll come to comments on the strategy. Any comments? I'd like to thank you, Hannah and Beth. I think it's been very interesting. I think you benefited as well from the fact that this strategy has come to this Scrutiny committee before it's going to council. I no doubt there will be questions asked from other council members in council, but at least we've had I try and going through this from start to finish in its draft form. We look forward to having the details of the cultural survey, hopefully for the one in 24, and when you get later on this year when you're doing that one. And as Councillor Smith said, I think it would be helpful to us, to all the members in this committee, the questions, so just the questions that are asked, if that could be sent to us outside this meeting, that would be helpful as well. So I don't know if anybody else has got anything else to say.
Chair, like I said, we've had a meeting today and I couldn't understand what's happening now, because I couldn't understand before, because as I said, we got a health organisation. I like to know HR what they're doing. No, I understand. I work with a private company with HR, but now you can understand better a meeting like this, and I can understand it fully because it's not straightforward, is it? No, everybody's totally different. You got to treat everybody the same, but everybody's different. And the information in here is flowing both ways, because you'll answer our questions and we're challenging it. And I think it's it'd be worth it this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Councillor Salmon, you put your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. It's just clarification. It was in regards to the number of people that responded to the 2024 survey. It was 316 according to the survey, which I think just reinforces even more what Beth and Hannah said about how difficult it is to get people to take part in surveys. And maybe this is something you guys can look at in the future on how you can get more people to be involved.
Yeah, the figure's lower than we had. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for that, Councillor Salmon. Before we go to the next item, you're quite welcome to stay with us, Anna and Beth, but you've got other things to do.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair. I think we'll leave you to it if that's okay.
Yeah,
thank you for this afternoon. I just want to say thank you because it's really valuable for us to get feedback so that we can shape this, as you said, ready to take to council. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you both.
Okay.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Chair, need me to stay?
No.
Thank you very much.
Right. Next item on the agenda is the work programme, item 6, forward work programme 25-26, pages 31 to 46. Anything on the work programme? Anything that you want to bring us to our attention?
Only that the next meeting is the last meeting in this cycle. We've got 3 items on the programme for that meeting, but I'll liaise with the relevant officers just to make sure everything is in order with them. And obviously we will start planning the next cycle soon as well. So if there's any obviously suggestions of items, etc. you want included, feel free to send one to me, and I will obviously gather everything then, and we'll develop relevant meetings then. And
2 points on that one, because we had a discussion with Neil prior to the meeting starting today. There were 3 items. There are 3 items due in April. One is decarbonisation. The other one is to deal with the multi-location policy. We've already been told by the officer who would normally be here dealing with decarbonisation that on that date in April, she's on leave. So I've asked Neil to contact the officer and find out if there's someone else, or if she can brief. If she's the only single point of contact, or that if there is somebody else that she can brief and attend the meeting, and we can put the pertinent questions to her. So we'll have to wait to see what the response is. The same thing, I've asked Neil to write to Anne because there seems a little bit of a doubt whether the multi-location policy will be available then, because apparently it's tied up with the new hybrid system that's due to be starting and being installed in April. So we'll have to come back to you with that one to indicate what the situation is. And if those two items are not on the agenda, we'll just be left with one, which means that perhaps we need to look at the situation or whether we can put, another one, at least another one on the agenda for that. One question from me, because the AGM is going to be delayed, and it's not going to take place the usual date in May. So I understand.
June was talking.
Well, it seems to be at the moment. It's likely to be very early in June. When you say you're working on the next cycle, because in our diaries at the moment, I can't see any meetings of any school committees.
Yeah,
that's based in May.
that's a fair point. When I refer just to planning, it's just sort of discussion, just sort of what items we potentially want for the next cycle. Just getting them initial ideas together, I suppose, and when things become more clearer in terms of dates, we can start building them blocks in there.
So, am I right in saying that because May could be a bit bare at the moment, there's planning taking place with that, and there may be scrutiny taking place in May?
No, not as far as I'm aware.
Right.
Not as far as I'm aware at the moment. April will be the last one that's actually in the diary at the moment, until, as you say, the AGM. Until the AGM.
Okay. Anybody else got any other questions on the forward program? No. Item 7, scrutiny referrals. I don't think we've had any of these. No. 8, feedback on scrutiny activities.
No, nothing.
You've got nothing
to raise with that.
I haven't either. And item 9, it's to any other business deemed urgent by the chair. I have none. Can I thank you all for your attendance this afternoon and declare the meeting closed.